Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a few minutes and do this tapping. It was a request for fibromyalgia. So many of you know I love this book, The Healing Questions Guide by Wendy Jensen. I'm pretty sure it's backwards on the video, but this is a great book and I like it. I have a ton of books that talk about psychosomatics, so the body-mind connection. But this one's kind of I would say one of my favorites. So those of you that aren't familiar with it, what it does is it gives you questions, and not all of them have to apply. They also give you an affirmation, which I would most of the times probably edit, because affirmations can be so exacting in what they're saying, and if the brain is not ready to receive that exacting information, then it's going to reject it. So that's why I would use bridging words. So I'm going to read what fibromyalgia. It also says see chronic fatigue and Epstein Bar. So I will read all of these. But the first one, fibromyalgia, and I always go with the words that someone uses, because that really to me represents where they're at with something. Meaning, I have fibromyalgia. They might say I have Epstein Bar or I have chronic fatigue, but I start with the words that are used. So these are the questions that they ask for you to possibly tune in and just see if any of them resonate. Some may, some might not, but again, and then I'll read the affirmation and then probably edit it. So the first question is, what will it take for me to take a breath, slow down, and allow things to unfold in a little more natural way? I could use that one. Even though I have fibromyalgia, I'm like, holy cow, that's always a good one for me to remember. I'm getting better at it. What details and responsibilities am I holding on to that are irrelevant and really none of my business? I think that language actually, I don't particularly care for the language in that one. What details and responsibilities am I holding on to that are irrelevant and really none of my business? So why I don't really care for the wording on that, I find that a little bit punitive and sort of judgy. And it's like, well, we hang on to stuff because of stuff that goes on inside of us. So that's why I would even edit some of these questions. Like the first one, I love it. What will it take for me to take a breath, slow down, and allow things to unfold a little more naturally? But this next one, what details and responsibilities am I holding on to that are irrelevant or really none of my business? Well, we make things relevant and we make them part of our business when there's something going on within us. So I would edit that. What will it take to gracefully, there's a couple of these I'm going to edit, and faithfully orchestrate the execution of my ideas and goals? So in our world and culture, that would be great if we could do it gracefully and faithfully, but there's reasons that we don't. So that's another reason I actually love this book, because I find I would edit. There's many of these I would edit and say, well, I'd love to, gracefully and faithfully orchestrate the execution of my ideas and goals, but there's something in the way of me doing that. Anything that can take the self-judgment out, to me, is huge. And this actually book is a softer version of another book that I have that's, I would say, quite punitive. I find the information in it super helpful, but I would take the punitiveness out of it. Okay, what will it take for me to start seeing my whole life differently? That's a big ask. It's a big ask. What would it take for me to see my whole life differently? That's why I love tapping, because we can go into what we're not seeing differently and tap on that. What toxic beliefs about myself and my right to a joyful life and my ability to create my life as I am create my life, am I storing in my tissues of my body? So the other thing with this is the create my life. This is where I love the idea of offering and surrendering, divine surrender. Okay, I'm right now I'm not able to create the life I want. So in my own ego consciousness, I think that I should be able to create it. But despite my best efforts, I can't. To me, that's when we can go into surrender and offer it and go, hey, I'm really struggling with creating this thing I want. So if I'm meant to have this, then show me the next step to have it. And if I'm not, give me peace about it. The surrendering is huge, because then it lets go of this idea like, I've got to create everything I want. It lets go of pushing the ego's agenda. And that's why I love the combination of this. Okay, the last question is, what will it take to release patterns of struggle and stories of hardship and focus on the glorious present? So these would all be things I would tap on. I'm struggling with releasing patterns of the past, stories of hardship. And again, this doesn't mean any or even all of these can be true for someone, but it's just, does some part of this resonate? So here's the affirmation. I accept responsibility for my life, and I am capable of creating wonderful things. See, that's a big ask. I accept responsibility for my life, and I'm capable of creating wonderful things. No, not always. In fact, there's a lot of times I can't. And that's when I would go to, that's why the affirmations to me, I would edit them and be like, I would like to be able to accept responsibility for my life, but there's a source of all, a source of love that runs everything. And what if it's not about me accepting responsibility for my life? What if it's about turning it over and saying, guide and direct my steps? Show me how to be responsible for myself in a way that's congruent with your desires for me. That is a completely different thing than what we're often taught in the personal development world. Well, I have to accept responsibility for my life, and I'm capable of creating wonderful things. So how do you feel when you try and you can't create wonderful things? And what if the reason you can't create wonderful things is you are being guided and directed back to a source of love, back to God, back to the Great Spirit, to help you turn things over and be shown the guidance and direction that can help you in your life. And from that place, what if this life unfolds before you that's just something that so fills you up? That's so different than this punitive, I can create the life I want. Because if we can't, then we can't. That's pushing the ego's agenda to go, I am responsible and I can create the life I want. This is not to say that we're not responsible for our children, that we don't bring food in the house, that there's responsibilities that we attend to in our life, but this punitive language about, I've got to create it, and if I can't, there's something wrong with me and I'm thinking about it wrong. It's like, stick a fork in me, I'm done. I allow life to flow through me regardless of my imagined insufficiency. So what would it take? Like, I like the idea that I could learn to allow life to flow through me rather than by me. I would change that. I embrace every lesson in my life and give myself permission to move on. Yeah, okay, so what do you do when you're like, no, I'm not embracing this lesson. This lesson pisses me off. This lesson upsets me. I don't like this lesson. Then it could be, that's where the offering piece can come in. How can I offer this to you? Give me peace about this thing, this lesson that seems to be happening in my life. Hey, Ruth, I'm using this lesson to beat the crap out of myself and say, oh, see, it's another lesson. We don't want all the lessons that come in our life. And what if it can be this is where the piece is like, I don't like this lesson. I can't stand this freaking lesson. I don't want this lesson. I'm not on board with this lesson. This lesson sucks in my life. When we can go to that, we can find freedom. But it's this punitive, like, well, I embrace every lesson in my life and give myself permission to move on. What I find, which is the impetus of the book that I wrote, is as we go into that, I'm pissed off that I had this lesson. I don't want this lesson. This lesson sucks. we don't have to try to embrace, and we don't have to try to move on. That is a natural byproduct that comes from going in to how and honoring however we feel about something that's in our life right now that we might have a lot of resistance to, that we're pissed off about. I'm pissed, I don't want this. Then you find you soothe your nervous system, it softens everything. And what I find is it creates the space for that guidance and direction for better feeling to come without having to try. I've got to push harder and try harder to align myself with what I want in my life. That sucks. I don't know about you, that sucks for me. So this way, I love reading these. Yeah, I am no longer attached to my story. Right. Good luck. Good luck when we're caught in a story and I'm no longer attached to my story. For me, that would just put pressure on me. I would say the opposite. Go into, I am so freaking attached to my story. I'm so attached to it. I'm so attached to what's happening. I don't want to be attached, but I am so freaking attached. To try and tell yourself when you're attached that I am no longer attached to my story. Pressure. And to me, it can leave one feeling like there's something wrong with me because I can't not be attached to the story. There's something wrong with me because I'm really, really attached to the story. Go into the attachment, allow that, give it full flower. And then the last thing is, I am creating a new one. I would add, I like that, but I would say, what if I can create a new one? So this is long already, so I am not gonna, well, I'll just read through, I'm changing my mind here. Chronic fatigue. This is why I really do. I love this book because it brings up so much food for thought in my view. And let me see if, wow, chronic fatigue is huge. So I'm just going to blaze through these. What gifts do I have that I am denying? What will it take to give myself permission to develop them? What gifts do I feel are being exploited? What will it take to create healthy boundaries with my gifts? What will it take to break away from my family pattern and start doing my own thing? What family burdens and responsibilities am I bearing that I would be better off not trying to carry? What will it take to fill my empty reserves? I like more of these questions better. What do I need to do to take care of myself in a productive way? What will it take to gain more clarity and direction about my purpose so I stop burdening myself with irrelevant tasks and responsibilities? What will it take to give myself the nurturing I never received as a child? That's a big one. Bingo. What if I was released from the need to please others, what would I do differently in my life? What do I keep thinking is my fault, but probably is not? What will it take to stop believing everything is my fault? What will it take to convince myself that I am enough, I have enough and do enough? What value is there in convincing myself I am alone? What will it take for me to believe I am not alone? What will it take to start using my imagination to project positive and joyful outcomes? Okay, so that one, would love to project positive and joyful outcomes, but the caveat, that's what tapping's for, is like, no, not positive, not joyful, not at all, not even in the ballpark, not even in the same universe. I'm not joyful, I'm not doing that. Allow yourself to tap through that. What will it take to stop identifying with the disease? That was a little punitive for me. And then I'm going to read Epstein Bar. Sorry, I know this is long, but these are good questions. And like I said, if you find you feel like, ugh, about some of these, honor and trust that. Because that's the part of you going, no, I don't want to beat myself up using this disease to do it, because God knows we can do that. maybe I can't find, oh, there's Epstein Bar. So these are the last ones. What will it take for me to disconnect from the toxic relationships I have created with others? I have created with others. Just another way to beat the crap out of yourself. And I would say, what if the relationships in your life are a mirror back to you, a reflection of the wounded parts of you, and that child within you that was wounded that needs attention? That's a very different way than, what will it take for me to disconnect from my toxic relationships that I have created with others? Now, what if there's life lessons? What if there's soul contracts? What if there's people in our lives that test the hell out of us? God knows I've got them. And what is it like? What if we can see this differently and go, this person is in my life to mirror back to me some unhealed part of me. That's it. Not, what will it take for me to release all the toxic relationships? And that stuff drives me crazy. I probably need to tap on that. What can I do to use my gifts in a helpful way that honors myself and others? What will it take for me to learn the techniques that will ease my distorted, not judgy at all, and distressed mind and bring it back into peace and wholeness? Good freaking luck. Like, okay, no, I see things in a way that don't really serve me, to say it less judgy. And this is a softer version. I still love this book though. What will it take for me to give myself permission to be separate from my parents and my family and just be me? What value is there in continually thinking I am not good enough? And what would be a healthier outlook? I would go into, I just don't feel good enough. I just don't. And then the shift can come without us having to try it. What psychological values does being ill have for me? So I would say, how is my child trying to protect me, using illness to do it? How is my inner child afraid of what's out in the world? And that's way less judgmental. It's like going into the child and going, baby, I get it. This is a way you need to feel safe. And what if we can see this differently? What part of me am I rejecting? What will it take for me to accept all of me? So I would say, what will it take to go into that inner child and love that child back into fullness, so that I do learn to accept, learn to start accepting all of me, even the parts of me I want to reject. What would I do different if I was no longer bound to pleasing my parents, family, and others? So I'd be like, I try to please them. Oh my God, I try and please them. My little girl or little boy learn to survive by pleasing people. Then you're honoring the part of you that people pleases, because it's a survival tactic. What would be like if I no longer felt responsible to fix everything? What does it look like to nurture and care for myself? I love that one. Oh, these are really interesting. What schemes am I subconsciously participating in to attempt to get nurturing I did not receive growing up? This is fascinating. And I'm glad I'm reading this out loud, because I'm going to tell you, I hear the ego or the bully in some of these. What schemes am I subconsciously participating in to attempt to get nurturing I did not receive in the child? Schemes? What ways am I trying to find nurturing outside of myself? Because that's what I learned as a child. That's how I learned to survive. I should rewrite this freaking book in a way with kinder, softer language. But it's good I always find it really helpful, because when I look things up for myself, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of true. And then I can tap through it. So that is fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and Epstein Bar out of this book. I'm not reading the affirmations because I'll rewrite all of them. So let's tap on. And this is what I would say. If you're struggling with fibromyalgia, Epstein Bar, chronic fatigue, the first place that I would go with this is, how do you feel about having that? And how are you likely judging yourself for having this? What do you say to yourself about yourself? I have to go into this in myself with when things show up on my body. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so judging myself for this. I'm so judging myself for what's happening. And how can I find a kinder, gentler, softer approach to go about this? So what do you feel? And that's what we're going to tap on here. So karate chop, this is a long one, but aren't mine kind of all? Hey, there it is. The judgment. Even though I don't like having this, and I totally judge myself for fibromyalgia, I choose to acknowledge I feel this way now. Even though I'm exhausted from this, I'm constantly trying to fix this because something's wrong with me. I choose to acknowledge I feel this way now. Even though I'm really judging myself for having this disease, for having this dis-ease, I choose to accept my feelings now. Go to the eyebrow. I have this fibromyalgia right now. It's what's presenting in my body. And I'm pretty sure if I look at this, I'm judging the heck out of myself for having this. And what if this fibromyalgia is actually just the way that my body is talking to me? What if it's letting me know some things are out of balance in my life? And instead of judging myself harshly, what if I could see this differently? I have fibromyalgia right now. And I've been doing everything I can to try and free my body from this. And what if a golden key here is to start by releasing the judgment that I'm likely raining down on myself for even having this. I have tried to people please in my life. And I have been afraid to put myself out in the world. And what if that's that little kid in me that learned to survive doing things just this way? And what if I can tune in to my inner child and let this child within me know you're okay. You're not wrong. You're not bad. You're not stupid in any way. you got wounded. And this fibromyalgia just happens to be the way this amazing body you live in right now is communicating with you. What if your body is actually trying to help you right now? To guide and direct you. To potentially judge yourself less and accept yourself more. Because this little kid inside of me has been through so much. And what if this could even be a way my inner child is trying to talk to me, trying to connect with me? And what if by tuning in to what my body is feeling, I could get some information on the feelings that are rumbling around inside of me that I might not totally be tuned into. This is exhausting. This feels like a lot of work. And what if my inner child felt pretty exhausted growing up and felt like it was a lot of work in the family? And what if by tuning into the symptoms that are presenting themselves and how I feel about the symptoms, what if I get more insight and clarity on what's going on internally for me and what my inner child's trying to express to me? And what if by doing that, I could find some soothing around the symptoms? And what if the more I do that, the more soothed I feel, body, mind, and spirit, overall? And take a breath. So if you found that helpful, zip to this part and just do the tapping. But to go through the healing questions guide and see what, if any of that lands for you, and then that's your roadmap on what you can tap on. And then the other piece is what I have found and am finding is, as we go in more into the symptoms that are presenting themselves, like, how's this symptom feel? Is it irritating? Does it create anxiety? Is it annoying? Does it create fear in me? That's this really nice little roadmap into, wow, what's going on inside me and is activating these parts of my nervous system, and see what happens and see if the symptoms start to soften and release. So Julie, I can see you're here. Ruth, I can't see who else is here, but that's it. Thanks. And then we'll see you back here Monday starting at 9 a.m. my time, in Mountain Time, to start doing a week more of tapping on forbidden emotions. All right, everyone. Hey, Marcia. Oh, good. One of the best ones, Marty. Thanks a lot. You're so welcome. Nice to see you here too. All right, everyone, take good care. Bye for now.